Hello beautiful friends, I am so happy to be with you today sharing another project for the Cut to You design team. This is my second project for the month of January 2021 and I am doing something quite different with the cut file today. So I'm going to be documenting these photos of my husband and I. These were taken in 2015, so they are fairly old photos now, but that's just a couple of photos that we had at a little photo shoot that a friend of mine did for us. I am using the Vintage Peony cut file, and you may notice that it does not actually look like a cut file on this. So what I've done is I have used my Silhouette Studio software and my Silhouette machine onto some really nice thick white watercolor cardstock, which comes from Uniquely Creative. Rather than having my Silhouette cut lines, I used a function to have it cut stitching holes. And then off camera I spent a huge amount of time stitching these beautiful Vintage Peony cut files. I used a couple of different threads and the colors coordinate with the collection that I'm using. So this is a really different way to use a cut file, and if you are interested in finding out how I have done this, please make sure that you are subscribed to my channel, because I will be adding a little tutorial to my YouTube channel in the coming days showing you how you can get this effect using any cut file that you have purchased. So I am toying with the idea. My initial thought was to do all of my stitching and then use some really light watercolor to color in the florals. I'm not 100% certain that I'm going to do that now, only because I'm just so in love with how that stitching has turned out. It just looks, I think, absolutely beautiful. And it did take me many hours to stitch this, so this is a real labor of love project, something to do in front of the TV for sure. But yeah, I'm not sure if I want to go ahead and do the watercolor now. I'll have a think about that before I move on. And the collection that I'm using to document this is from Uniquely Creative, and this is the Gums and Roses collection. Absolutely gorgeous, some beautiful soft pinks, a grey green and some pale blues. It's just absolutely beautiful, and I am definitely looking forward to using it on this project. So let's hop on fast forward and see how it all comes together. Okay, so I'm showing you here that off camera I have gone ahead and matted my background cardstock onto this pale pink polka dot and added some stitching using my sewing machine around the border. I'm getting straight into backing my photos. I have already added a white cardstock, very thin mat to the back of my photos, which is something that I almost always do when I am scrapbooking. And now I'm using this really beautiful little rose print pattern paper. This is from one of the pattern papers in the kit that on the B side it's broken down into 4 quadrants and each has a different pattern, and the patterns are just slightly smaller in scale to the full 12 by 12 sheets. So they're perfect for backing these photos because you get to see a little bit of that detail of those florals. I also have these 2 little green strips which I know I'm going to use on either side of my photos, and I'm just going to trim those down now. So my plan is to have the photos just touching each other side by side across the middle of those 2 stitched rose cut files. And I did actually plan this out a little bit in my Silhouette Studio software before I sent it to the Cameo to cut those stitching holes. And what I'm doing now is I've sat down and I fussy cut out a whole bunch of florals and other bits and pieces from some of the pattern papers that came in the kit. If you're not familiar with these Uniquely Creative products, in each of the paper packs there's usually 2 to 3 papers which contain a whole lot of elements that you can fussy cut out if you are so inclined to do so. And that is something that I have definitely been doing with my kits, because it just gives you so many options when it comes to embellishing, and I'm finding that at the moment my style is definitely leaning more towards those beautiful layered florals, which is what these kits are absolutely perfect for. So I think it took me maybe 1.5 nights in front of the TV with my husband with my fussy cutting scissors to cut out all of these little elements. And as you saw from my little bag there, I now have so many florals that I can use for embellishing when I'm working with this kit. And as I'm chattering away now, you are just seeing me build a couple of clusters around these 2 photos. I have taken a quick photo of that on my phone so that I can get a good idea of where I had placed everything. And I'm pulling out the gauze, which came in this kit, and I think it's come in another one of the kit. It's a staple, I think, of Uniquely Creative. I personally have actually never worked with gauze before, but I do love that beautiful soft texture that it is going to add to my layout. And for this particular layout, soft texture is definitely something that I wanted. I thought about adding some tissue paper, but I decided the gauze would be better because the tissue paper, of course, covers up more of those stitched flowers, which after spending so many hours stitching them, I did not want to then go and cover the majority of them up. So with the gauze, you can still see the stitched detail behind it, which you weren't going to see with the tissue paper. And of course, as you can see, I did decide not to add the watercolor to those florals, partly because, as I mentioned in my intro, I think they look stunning as they are. Also, partly because I did not want to run the risk of messing it up while I was adding the watercolor. So I've left them as they are. It's a really striking detail, and I'm totally in love with how it ended up once the layout is finished. So we have gone on to super speed here because of course we have come to the part of my project where I am adding all of my embellishments in. And if you have watched any of my previous videos, you will know that with me this gets to be a little bit tedious because I am quite slow at this portion of my creating. So you're just seeing me here. I'm pulling up that photo that I've taken so that I've got a rough idea of where I had placed all of my florals. And again, if you've watched any of my previous videos, you may notice that pre-arranging is not really something that I tend to do. But lately I've had a few instances where I've got to the end and I've looked at my layout and I've kind of wished I had placed things a little bit differently. So I thought for now at least, maybe I'll just give this a go of trying to arrange things before I stick them down, and then having a really good look to make sure that I'm happy with the placement before I go applying any adhesive. And so that is exactly what I'm doing now. I'm using my art glitter glue with the fine tip added to the end of it, just to add some glue to the inside pieces of each of these little florals and embellishments. And then as you can see, I am adding some foam dimensional, these are some little foam strips. They are just, I'm so glad that I got hold of some of these because they're just absolutely perfect for so much of what I do. So I'm adding the foam just to the outside of each of those little die cut pieces to help give it some dimension. And when all of those beautiful florals are layered on top of each other with the outsides of them popped up, it really does add so much more interest, a little bit of movement, and it helps those florals and foliage just really come alive on the page. In this collection in particular, they are quite photorealistic, the florals, so it is such a beautiful, gosh, how many times am I going to say beautiful creating this page and doing this voiceover? It is a beautiful effect adding the foam to the back, and they do look like little tiny bouquets of flowers, just giving added to the corners of my photos. So I'm just doing the 2 clusters, and again this was pre-planned when I was figuring out my layout, because then it's not covering up any of the cut file or the stitch file, and it's complementing what is already there. I have also pulled out some thickers from my stash, which you will see coming in very soon once I'm finished. Oh, these little phrases here. This was another cut apart sheet. There's some strips with some word phrases on them, and I've trimmed those down and cut them out. I have one which I cut in half into 2 pieces, which says today and every day, and then down the bottom it says XOXO. I actually think I do remove that XOXO because I decide that that's where I want my title to go. So I've already typed up my journaling on using my typewriter and cut it out, trimmed it down into strips, and it's just a really sweet little quote that I found that just perfectly summed up the way that I felt when I met my husband, because these photos were taken not all that long after we had started our relationship. And yeah, it was a really sweet little quote that I thought really summed up how we both felt about each other, I think. And these thickers are from my stash. They're really small, sweet rose gold thickers, and I'm just spelling out the word together. And then I will add my journaling strips with some wet glue just tucked in underneath, and it is on a bit of an angle, and that's because my photos are on an angle, so I thought I would keep that consistent. And then of course, to finish off my layout, I am going to come in a moment with some Nuvo drops. I believe I used 2 different colors, perhaps 3. I might have an opaque pink and one of the jewel drops, and then I've definitely got a gold, and I'm just going to scatter those around for a little bit of a finishing touch, and that will be it. It is quite a simple layout in terms of embellishing and design, but of course all of the love and the time and attention has gone into that stunning stitched cut file. So thank you so much for sticking with me. As I mentioned, if you are interested in seeing how to create something like this yourself, please make sure you are subscribed to my channel so that you can see that tutorial once I upload it. If you have enjoyed this video, I'd love for you to give me a thumbs up or leave me a comment and let me know what you think. Every little bit of engagement that I get with my videos really is helping me to grow my channel. And with that, I would like to say thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.